This is a man who doesn't want you to see his face. Mazza Mahmood went to court to stop Panorama showing you pictures like this.
I'll give you a shout. I'm about to go on a job now. I'll give you a shout.
Posing as a fake sheikh, the News of the World reporter delighted in exposing the secrets of the rich and famous. Dozens of people were sent to jail following his undercover stings.
I never killed anyone, but it feels like I've served a life sentence.
Now Mazza Mahmood stands accused of being a liar.
Mazza Mahmood was Pinocchio on speed. It was so easy for him to fit anybody up.
The king of the sting destroyed lives, leaving a trail of victims in his wake.
This would never have happened unless they created the situation. They made it happen.
But we can reveal police and prosecutors had evidence for years Mazza Mahmood's word should not have been relied upon. Posing as an Arab sheikh, Mazza Mahmood helped change the face of British tabloid journalism. Royals, celebs, drug dealers, all targeted by the News of the World reporter. Many have been arrested and jailed on his evidence. Mazza Mahmood won the newspaper industry's major awards for his journalism and was celebrated by his paper as a force for good who exposed serious international crime.
Posh kidnap. We stop £5 million ransom gang. London's burning star is cocaine dealer. Dirty bomb foiled by News of the World.
I'm proud of what I do. I wouldn't do it otherwise.
This is Mazza Mahmood's only TV interview.
I use subterfuge. So if my identity were revealed, I couldn't work.
His identity is also hidden because he claims there is a price on his head.
It's our job as investigative journalists to make sure the public get to know the truth. That's what we do.
But does he always deal in the truth? And what kind of journalist is hiding behind the disguise of the fake sheikh? All questions arising out of a trial which collapsed this summer after a judge effectively accused Mazza Mahmood of being a liar. Pop singer Tulisa Kontostavlos was cleared by a court in July. After it emerged, Mazza Mahmood had not told the whole truth while giving evidence about his sting. He'd accused her of setting up a cocaine deal.
This whole case was a horrific and disgusting entrapment by Mazza Mahmood.
Mazza Mahmood went to court on Monday to try to stop Panorama broadcasting recent pictures. Here he is on a sting.
Okay. I'll give you a shout. I'm about to go on a job now. I'll give you a shout.
He claimed his life would be in danger if we did. The courts rejected that argument. Our investigation has revealed serious wrongdoing at the heart of some of his undercover stings. We're identifying him tonight to make it more difficult for him to entrap people in the future. Been to a casino before?
Yeah, it's a good place to do a sting, really.
Now a key figure who helped Mazza Mahmood stitch up his targets in the past is letting us in on the secrets of the fake sheikh.
Mazza Mahmood was Pinocchio on speed. He didn't know the truth if it hit him. He just didn't.
Steve Grayson worked with him in the 90s. What was the most lavish sting you ever worked on?
The one in Las Vegas with Johnny Bryan.
John Bryan, an American financial advisor snapped by paparazzi sucking the toes of the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. When 3 years later, Mazza Mahmood discovered John Bryan was marketing a Las Vegas casino, he sensed a story. What are you trying to get from him?
We're trying to get him to talk about Ferguson, Sarah Ferguson, you know, their life and what she's like in bed, the whole 9 yards.
But at a meeting in LA, John Bryan didn't give much away. So Steve Grayson says they tried to record evidence of John Bryan offering to supply them with cocaine.
He said, "I'm not a drug dealer, Steve. Sorry. I don't care what the Arab wants, but I'm not a drug dealer."
What are you guys talking about? You're visitors here, you're gonna get arrested. This is how you get thrown in jail.
We spoke to both men independently. They'd had no contact for nearly 20 years.
I went back to the room and told Mahmood that he's not a drug dealer, and I got it on tape. We listened to it. He said, well, look, we'll try him on hookers.
Would that work?
I said, hey, I'm not your blank, blank pimp, and you can go, you can basically go to hell.
So I got it on tape, went back, showed it to Mahmood, we listened to it. He said, we've got nothing here. I said, look, let's just go home. This is crap.
But they didn't go home. Later, Steve Grayson welcomed 2 guests to Mazza Mahmood's hotel suite.
2 hookers, 2 girls. They come up, I open the door. The hooker says, Johnny sent me.
Mazza Mahmood had got his story.
Fergie's ex in vice and drug shame.
So how come 2 prostitutes turned up at Mazza Mahmood's hotel room? For the last 12 days, Mazza Mahmood has been telling us through his lawyers he has irrefutable evidence John Bryan was willing to supply prostitutes. Evidence Steve Grayson was unaware of. The lawyers say they understand there are a number of covert tape recordings. Just before Panorama was due to broadcast this investigation on Monday, they sent us clips of 3 short telephone conversations with one of Mazza Mahmood's men, apparently made after the meeting in Los Angeles. We decided to postpone the program. But are these tape recordings the irrefutable evidence Mazza Mahmood says they are? They do appear to give weight to Mahmood's claim. On tape, John Bryan is asked, where can we get good girls? He replies he knows of a great place and asks how many would you like. We played John Bryan the clips. He says he wasn't offering to supply prostitutes.
I had a conversation with him that any concierge at any hotel would have, saying that, oh, you want to meet girls? I know a great place you can go. There's strip clubs, there's nightclubs, there's all sorts of places. The fact of the matter is, when this went illegitimate, I refused. When Steve Grayson asked me, will you supply us prostitutes? He asked me very clearly. I said no. And I told him to go F himself. That's the bottom line.
Mr. Mahmood's lawyers initially appeared to say the recording supported the claim that John Bryan had offered to supply cocaine. From the 3 clips they've given us, that's not the case.
I know that I didn't do it. They know that I didn't do it.
Steve Grayson knows there are questions for him too.
People's going to watch this and they're going to say, well, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you be a whistleblower? Well, I like my job, and I was good at it.
He was later sacked by the News of the World for fabricating photographs of the beast of Bodmin Moor. And the man who turned him in? Mazza Mahmood. Steve Grayson says he feels remorse about what he and Mazza Mahmood did.
My hand to God, I felt for all of them. All the real people that he turned over who didn't need it, who really didn't need it. But anyway.
The story of a page-free girl is one sting Steve Grayson feels particularly bad about.
Busted. Page 3 girls, drugs and vice scandal.
Emma Morgan, then just 24, was branded a mob-connected drugs pusher by Mazza Mahmood, something she denies.
She should never, ever have been done like that. Never. She wasn't a drug dealer.
As in so many of his stings, Mazza Mahmood started by flying the target to an exotic location, in this case, Lanzarote. And the deal too good to be true? A lucrative contract for a Middle East bikini calendar.
I desperately wanted to be a part of it. It was fabulous what he was offering to me.
But all Mazza Mahmood really wanted was a story exposing Emma Morgan as a drugs pusher. Have you done a bit of coke?
I've had cocaine prior to this, but certainly never bought cocaine, certainly never supplied anybody with cocaine.
Stepping off the plane, she was surprised to meet a man called Billy, who she knew from the Lanzarote party scene.
He came rushing over to me and I said, "Hi, you know, what are you doing here?" And he replied with, "I'm your bodyguard," which I found a little bit crazy.
Steve Grayson always suspected Billy had been hired by Mazza Mahmood to help stitch her up.
He's a drug dealer. We are drug dealers. We have paid this guy to supply the drugs to give to her.
And so the trap was laid. This secret camera footage, never broadcast before, shows us the inner workings of a Mazza Mahmood sting. Here's Steve Grayson. Billy, the man with the cocaine, is on the right. And here's Mazza Mahmood rehearsing the sting. This is the first time Emma's seen this footage.
It makes me feel sick to see them together, getting ready to set me up.
Enter the target. Emma's offered champagne and cannabis. Then Billy lays out the cocaine on the table.
Ah.
There you go. You're snorting the coke. Page-free girl taking cocaine isn't much of a story. Page-free girl who is a drug pusher might be. Over the coming hours, Emma says she felt pressured by Mazza Mahmood to get him some cocaine.
That's not something that I wanted to do, but I want to please this man.
She says Mazza Mahmood asked her later to get him some cocaine from Billy, which she did, 2 small bags. That night, she slid them under Mahmood's hotel room door. She can't remember any money changing hands.
I was a fool. I was naive. To be foolish isn't a crime. To be naive isn't a crime. To do what he did is criminal.
So the point is this, is the story is this page-free girl, Emma, supplies drugs to the news of the world. What's the truth?
She wouldn't have done if Billy wasn't there.
Later, Emma was told that Billy had ended up a headless corpse. In fact, he's alive and well, and an estate agent. He told Panorama,
"I'd like to apologise to Emma for my part in stitching her up. The only real criminal was Mazza Mahmood. He gave me the money to buy the cocaine."
Emma's career went into freefall. Years later, she says, desperate to fend off loan sharks, she grew cannabis at home and got a suspended prison sentence.
I haven't had the career I should have had. I haven't had the life I should have had. He's a horrible, horrible man.
Mazza Mahmood denies acting improperly and says our account of what happened is wrong and misleading. For some, the consequences of a Mazza Mahmood sting have been even more serious.
Smokers started it. Danny Kendall and Company.
John Alford had been a child star in Grange Hill. By the late 90s, he was a household name. London's Burning was watched by 17 million people. But then it was all over. He was sentenced to 9 months in jail after supplying the fake Sheikh with cocaine and cannabis. John Alford admits he'd been a heavy drug user, but he insists he was never a dealer. He says he was entrapped.
I'm not completely innocent in that sense. I technically did what they wanted me to do. but the way they went around it, it leaves a really bitter taste in my mouth.
Okay, Wednesday, 13th of August 97, times now 6:50.
This is the fake Sheikh and his entourage, preparing to meet John Alford at the Savoy. Mazza Mahmood says he'd been tipped off that the actor was a drug dealer. The News of the World man was captured by his own secret camera.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. His career's over as well. He's finished. Gonna get banged up as well.
He appears to relish the prospect of ruining a man's life.
Also, I can shake a bit at the Savoy.
The deal too good to be true this time, John was offered the chance to break into Hollywood. Once again, the trap is set. Enter the target.
I don't think I've ever been so nervous in all of my life. They offered me millions. Hollywood films, working with De Niro, Pacino. All my heroes, they did their homework.
As usual, alcohol was pressed, but John was on the wagon.
Oh, I'd love a water, please.
Are you sure that's what you want? Yeah, you disappoint us. You must be champagne.
I've had to stop the drinking. I've been teetotal now for 6 months.
The child star had also been a heavy cocaine user, but he was off that too.
I don't know what... I don't myself. I've been 2 years, nothing.
Don't take.
When I was 13, everything. Everything. So...
John Alford says later over dinner, Mazza Mahmood pushed him hard to get him drugs.
I didn't want to get them drugs, then they applied the pressure. I said, look, I really can't do this, you know, and the pressure, just constant.
But this was not captured on camera. Mazza Mahmood has said his tape recorder wasn't working. His equipment was working, though, when John Alford supplied Mazza's team with a small amount of cocaine and cannabis. He was sent to prison.
Well, I lost my house, I lost my career. Everything I'd worked for since the age of 9 went down the pan in a day.
There have been moments when it all became too much for him to bear.
I'm lucky to be here. You know, there was times when I've really thought of ending it. The last 18 years, I've been through hell.
John Alford launched appeals over a number of years, claiming that he'd been entrapped. All were rejected by the courts. Dozens of people have been jailed on the strength of Mazza Mahmood's stories. But Panorama has seen police documents which raise serious questions about why the Metropolitan Police relied upon the fake Sheikh's evidence. In 1999, a covert police investigation, part of a murder inquiry, had revealed links between corrupt police officers, a firm of private detectives called Southern Investigations, and tabloid journalists. One name that cropped up? Mazza Mahmood. One of the documents says, source met Maz. Maz was with a plainclothes officer. The officer was selling a story to Maz. We have no way of verifying that. Mazza Mahmood insists he has never bought stories from police officers. He wasn't the only journalist whose name cropped up in the paperwork. But shouldn't the police have tried to find out more? We've been told this information should have led to a full-scale inquiry, and it didn't. We've also seen documents revealing that private detectives with Southern Investigations worked with Mazza Mahmood, including on the John Alford sting. Not that the fake Sheikh has been keen to publicise his links with private investigators. He made his position clear at the Leveson inquiry into press ethics.
I swear by Allah that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
The cameras were switched off to protect his identity.
On private investigators, can I stress very clearly that I never ever commissioned a private detective to do any work for me. I never paid a private detective.
But was that the whole truth? Panorama has seen files on Southern Investigations. This is a letter dated July 1999 from the private eye firm which begins, Dear Maz. That's Mazza Mahmood.
Further to our rather enjoyable operation to assist you, I now take the liberty of enclosing a note of our charges.
Mazza Mahmood says it wasn't his decision to hire private detectives, and so his statement that he never commissioned a private detective is correct. In 2002, armed police arrested a gang plotting to kidnap Victoria Beckham and her children. Mazza Mahmood had stopped the crime of the century.
Posh kidnap. World exclusive. We stop £5 million ransom gang.
Or so he claimed. What he didn't tell his readers was that one of the kidnap gang, an Albanian called Mr. Gashi, was paid thousands of pounds to work with him. You can hear Mr. Gashi on this covert tape suggesting how much ransom the gang could get for Victoria Beckham.
You think 1 million is not enough, isn't it? Isn't it, Joe?
Mr. Gashi, a convicted criminal, worked with Mazza Mahmood before and for years after the kidnap plot. He's speaking to us on condition we don't show his face.
We pre-planned this kidnap plot, so-called. We arranged it. It was a total lie. I personally did it because of the money.
When the prosecution discovered Mr. Gashi had been paid by the News of the World and lied about it, the case collapsed. 5 men had spent 7 months in prison on remand. Lawyer Siobhan Egan acted for one of the accused.
The evidence was pathetic. A 3-year-old could have seen through it. And I have no doubt that experienced officers from the yard knew they were dealing with a pile of tosh. It didn't add up to a hill of beans.
Mazza Mahmood denies inventing the kidnap plot, but the judge was so troubled by the payment to Mr. Gashi that he referred it to the then Attorney General.
If a trial collapses, and collapses in circumstances where the reason is because of alleged wrongdoing on the part of a witness, that's a real issue for me.
But after taking legal advice about Mr. Gashi's involvement, Lord Goldsmith discovered he could take no action.
I'd explored every possible avenue for dealing with this, what I saw as a very unsatisfactory state of affairs, and each avenue had turned out to be a blank.
After the Beckham kidnap trial collapsed, Mr. Gashi made allegations against Mazza Mahmood, which led police to launch an investigation, Operation Canopus. He was interviewed under caution. Why, he was asked, did he rely upon people like Mr. Gashi? Not a problem. Mazza Mahmood told detectives he gets information from hookers, from drug addicts, and he said, I've got bent police officers that are witnesses, that are informants. So who were these bent police officers, and what precisely was their relationship with Mazza Mahmood? We don't know, because the officers interviewing him appear not to have asked. What we do know is the police didn't find Mr. Gashi a convincing witness and dropped the investigation because of insufficient evidence. But it wouldn't be too long before the News of the World found itself at the centre of another police investigation.
This is not where we wanted to be, and it's not where we deserve to be.
The phone hacking scandal saw Rupert Murdoch's News of the World shut down in disgrace. Mazza Mahmood was praised in the final edition as representing the best of its journalism. He moved on to the Sunday Times, then the New Sun on Sunday.
I think he's sick. Obviously, I produced my...
Which is where he was when he targeted former X Factor judge Tulisa Kontostavlos. It was business as usual. Drink flowing, fancy locations, Las Vegas, the Dorchester. The deal too good to be true? They wanted someone who could play a bad girl in a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
As soon as I hear that, I obviously grabbed onto it and completely milked it. Like, yeah, I am the bad girl.
Almost kind of like a bad girl.
Yeah. A bit ghetto. A bit ghetto.
Yeah. You've got, but that kind of... I mean, a kind of a...
Now I get it. Now
it makes complete sense.
Just like Emma Morgan and John Alford before her, Chalisa says that off-camera she too felt pressured to get drugs. She contacted a friend, and her defence in the case was she never intended him to supply Mazza Mahmood with cocaine. It was another drug shame front page, and Chalisa was charged with facilitating a drug deal.
When I got the news to say that I was going to be charged, I couldn't take it.
But she fought back, recalling something she'd said in the car on the way home from the sting.
I was having a conversation with my friend in the car, and I was talking about this person that I knew that was on drugs and was in a bad way, and I just began having this real anti-drugs conversation.
Mazza Mahmood's chauffeur, Alan Smith, a convicted criminal, gave a statement to the police about that conversation.
Alan Smith did confirm what Chalisa had always said, which is that he overheard her in the back of the car expressing anti-cocaine views.
Then Alan Smith said he couldn't remember. But this change of mind happened after he'd spoken to Mazza Mahmood, a conversation Mahmood eventually admitted to in court. There was one problem for Mazza Mahmood. This conflicted with evidence he'd given on oath. The judge turned on Mahmood, accusing him of interfering with the evidence and then lying to cover it up.
There are strong grounds for believing that Mr. Mahmood told me lies. There are also strong grounds for believing that the underlying purpose of these lies was to conceal the fact that he had been manipulating evidence in this case.
From that moment onwards, I just felt like I'd woken up from a bad dream.
I am firmly of the view, and always was, and always will be, that what Chalisa Kontos-Stavlos did was crime created by Mazza Mahmood.
The judge threw out the case against Chalisa and the cocaine supplier, even though he'd already pleaded guilty. Are you thinking about suing the Sun on Sunday?
Yes, I am thinking about it.
And she's not the only one. Solicitor Mark Lewis, a key figure in exposing phone hacking at the News of the World, now has the fake Sheikh in his sights.
The damage it's caused, the damage for people's livelihoods, the amount of people who've sent to prison is much, much bigger. It's a far more serious thing than phone hacking ever was.
Mazza Mahmood says he has spent his career investigating crime and misconduct, but he's used legitimate investigative methods and has brought many individuals to justice. He says any criticism of him usually comes from those he's exposed or people he's worked with who have an axe to grind. The Metropolitan Police told us that once it is presented with evidence, regardless of source, it makes its own assessment about whether to investigate. The Crown Prosecution Service says that no one is currently in jail on the strength of the reporter's evidence, and it is looking at past cases. Can you get your life back, John?
No one can give me the 18 years I've lost of my life. No one can give me that back. My family and friends have kept my spirits up. I just hope this is the first day of a new life for me.
The fake Sheikh will soon learn if he's to face charges following the collapse of the Chalisa trial. He denies perjury and perverting the course of justice. Already, 3 cases based on his evidence have been dropped. Mazza Mahmood has cast a spell over British journalism for the last 3 decades. Has that spell now been broken?